Bollywood finally did it. They made a great remake. And I don't mind this remake because such story needs to be remade and travel. Because what they're talking about is more important than just that film. So how does two films telling the same story does it so differently and yet both work? Let's talk about it. Hello guys, I'm Nona Prince and today we'll analyze Dhadak 2, the Hindi remake of the Tamil classic Pariyerum Perumal. We'll talk about how Mari Selvaraj's work was interpreted by Shazia Iqbal. But the first question is, why remake? Why can't you tell your own story about caste discrimination? And I get it, there is a negative connotation to a remake because most often remakes are made because you want to make a lot of money. It's a proven thing, it's a formula, just copy paste it, make your film and make a lot of money. And that is what you'll think about this too. Karan Johar's Dharma Productions are taking tragic love stories based on caste discrimination from across regional languages and then turning into a franchise. If you don't know, Dhadak 1 was actually a remake of a Marathi film Sairat. So all of these things make you doubt the intentions. Now I have not seen the first Dhadak because its original Sairat was a masterpiece and I have not heard great things about it also. But with Dhadak 2, they actually subverted our expectations. They have not just respected the original film but added their own touch to it and enhancing the experience, not degrading it. And I think that's a big compliment. The story of both the films is talking about the level of caste discrimination in our society, how it has become so systematic that we can't even see it. It's hidden in plain sight until we open our eyes. And one thing I love about from the original itself, that it's not a story of a victim, that our hero is just suffering and the whole world is wrong. But the story is also about the personal arc of our hero, that he also needs to grow. He also needs to accept that what he is suffering from, he is also a part of it. It's more about his growth as a character than trying to bring a change in the world. Now let's come to how both the films tell the same story. If I define the two films, if Pariyerum Perumal is an artistic expression of a film, then Dhadak 2 is a socially relevant drama. If the original is his story, then with the remake, it's their story. So let's break it down. First, the treatment. The original is very raw and rustic. You can feel it. It's just trying to be as real as possible. And the way the camera is placed, you are witnessing all of this from afar. You're looking at everything that's happening, the whole picture. Whereas the remake, it's more cinematic in nature. Everything looks clean, it's aesthetic. There's a lot of slow motion used. And through the camera, the audience gets really close to the characters. We are living the story as them. And there is a lot of emphasis on moments. In the original, most things are happening in real time. Whereas in the remake, in those hard-hitting scenes, it emphasizes on it. It wants to make it register in our heads. Let's take the serial killer's character. In the original, he's just an ordinary guy who will be lost in the crowd. Like, it will take you a time to notice, oh, it's him, he's there. And that's how they want to go about it. Whereas in the remake, there's a lot of emphasis. Whenever he comes on screen, there's slow motion. His background music plays. It's very sinister. They want to show that a devil is walking among humans. And they have done something interesting things with this character. It's his story also. We get some additional scenes with him which are not present in the original. And I think that arises from the next big point of differentiation, the casting in the remake. If I'm not wrong, in the original, most of the cast is newcomers or have very less experience. And I guess it suited what the director wanted. Whereas in the remake, they've really casted some seasoned actors. And because of that, each one of them gets a great moment to shine. They leave a mark in your head. Doesn't matter how big of a role they have or not. So the lead pair is actually supported by such an amazing cast. Now, very interestingly, the original is more subtle in showing the caste discrimination at the start and it slowly unravels. Whereas in the remake, we are very direct from the beginning. In the original, the main theme almost feels like a subtext. It's present underneath until we get to that big moment at the wedding, from where it just takes off and becomes very real and brutal. And the remake, from start, they are direct dialogues talking about it. It's constantly present, it's constantly being talked about. And that is why watching the original, there's always this feeling of angst, frustration. And what kind of a world is this? We need to, bring change. As a whole, it's making you uncomfortable. But in the remake, it felt more like I'm watching a good versus bad film. There are these wrong elements in the society and we need to take them down. It didn't feel as a struggle of ages, which the original feels like. And I think that comes from the way the remake is adapted. The Hindi remake is packaged for its audience. And I feel they were right to make it more palatable to them. It is kind of a love story with the caste angle, which is not the case with the original. There are multiple romantic songs. There's a whole wedding dance. And overall, it is very commercial in nature. And I feel that is done to draw the audiences, to make them comfortable with things they already know and are used to. And with that, give them the impactful things. And once they are hooked to the story, they are connected with the characters, then hit them with the hard-hitting scenes. Give them the impactful moments. And they actually do a great job. There were multiple goosebump moments. Now you also need to note that in comparison, Tamil cinema is abundant with films about caste discrimination. That audience is very used to such subjects. They have so many filmmakers telling those stories. Every year there's one or two. But that's not the case with Bollywood or Hindi audience. So in a sense, this film is actually very bold for an Hindi market. And they had to be very measured about it. Today we know what's happening with the censor board, the outrageous things they are doing, the changes they are asking for, the cuts they are making, the things they are adding themselves. From giving censor certificates, they are becoming producers and editors themselves. So the film is made with restrictions. They were asked for 16 cuts, and there were a lot of rumors that the big moments from the original have been cut out. But that's actually not the case. The names of the places, different castlers, all of those have been removed, but still the remake leaves an impact, and you need to give them credit for that. They have made very smart choices. There was a scene where the police inspector hits the mother of our hero, and that scene was asked to be cut off. So instead of removing that, they just cut to black, but we still hear the slap, and then we come back. It actually felt very artistic, and it never felt abrupt. So kudos to the team. I feel this is also the reason why the original feels more brutal, whereas the remake is more controlled in nature. Now they did make changes with the hero's characteristics also. In the original, Pariyerum's character is very innocent, he's naive in nature and very honest, and he's still figuring out the world he lives in. Whereas Nilesh in the remake feels like he's more aware of his surroundings. He understands the world he's living in and making his way through it. According to me, what makes the original very superior is the cultural nuances. We get a lot of montages exploring the life of the character, the things they do in their culture, the music, the customs, the rituals when someone dies. We get a lot of montages of it, the work his family does. So we really understand the world the hero comes from, which is not the case in the remake. We just get one dialogue telling us about what the hero and his family does. And maybe these are the reasons why the remake is 30 minutes shorter than the original. Now symbolism is a big thing in Mari Selvaraj's work, which also stands out in Pariyerum Perumal. Be it the use of animals, the blue color, the dog, there's plenty of subtext like that. And the remake actually takes inspiration from that. They also create multiple moments with symbolism, be it the blue color, be it showing a character on the ground and people with privilege on the stairs. When someone is writing the name of our hero, they don't write down the surname, they just put the letter and a dot. So I like those touches. Now the original came out in 2018, but watching it you feel like it's much older, whereas the remake is modern, it's of today's time. And I feel that has led to many changes they had to make. The biggest one is the female character. She's literally the co-lead in the remake, whereas that's not the case with the original. And it makes sense because the remake has a female director and she's bringing her own voice into it also. And I like that personal touch. Now in the original, that character represented privilege and the ignorance she has to everything that's happening around her, how protected she is from the world, and how she doesn't understand the world he comes from. They do hold on the last point in the remake, but there's way more to her. They have added a feminist angle. We see that there are different type of suppressions. We are seeing caste discrimination, but we also see the gender discrimination. How that is also so systematic, so hidden, until the character points it out. Now if you have seen the original, you may think this is all tagged along. It was not needed. But if you watch this film in vacuum, I think it all just works well. It's not forced. It's very much the part of the character. And I think we needed her side because it is a love story. We need to have two characters with depth coming together and root for them. And I think that's why the love story works for me. If it was similar to the original, I don't think it would have worked that well. Now because of these changes in the remake, it led to the change in the ending also. If in the original the ending was a question mark, in the remake it's a statement. As I said, Pariyerum Perumal keeps it very realistic and it has a very open end. It leaves you with the question, can the world really change? Can things become better? And it leaves you on a very iconic frame of two glasses, one with tea, one with coffee, and it's open to interpretation. Now the remake also, they try to make it very iconic, which can also have an interpretation, which is basically saying that you need to raise your voice, especially when you are privileged. When something wrong is happening, even you need to raise your voice high. But they don't stop there. We kind of get a mid-credit scene which is like a closure, where it shows that maybe things can become better. It is kind of a happy ending, showing us that change happens when you fight for it. And that's why I said original is a question mark and the remake is a statement. Now there are some more changes from the original to the remake which I want to talk about. First is the dog, Kurup, in the original, which is actually in the remake. We get that sequence also, but it's mostly done like a flashback. It is just a subplot, that's it. Whereas in the original, we start with that sequence, and that has an effect on throughout the film. Now the remake actually added a character and a big subplot which was not there in the original, of a college senior who's into politics. He comes from a marginalized caste, and that character is actually inspired from a true life person. And I think this touch was really good. Again, as I said, the remake is their story, not just one person's story. And this arc is not just extra, but is intertwined with our main character. The impact of the dog character is actually taken up by this character in the remake. And the way they close that story at the end, they bring back the dog in that moment. There's a whole poem and the character directly looking into the camera. That scene actually gave me chills. It was a great addition. Now the character of girl's father has much more role in the original, whereas I don't think we get enough of him and his perspective in the remake. They kind of divide the character between the father and the uncle. Also the friend character played by Yogi Babu in the original, that is cut short in the remake. And this is, I think, a sensibility change. Yogi Babu works really well in Tamil film, but that sensibility doesn't cross over for a Hindi film. The climax in the original again is very realistic and grounded in nature, whereas in the remake I find it went overboard, but it ends with the similar impact. Now the serial killer which I was talking about before, in the remake they have actually given some backstory which is done very well. It's not like we cut to a backstory, but it's more like when he's committing one of the murders, he just sits there and we just hear the audio of the backstory, what had happened to him, which was a really good touch. And we also find out that he has his own family and a daughter who is teaching. See, at the end both films take a different way of telling the same story, and it's always fascinating to see how they do it. Now of course original is original and remake is gonna be remake, but I feel the best way a remake can respect the original is by making a good film and retaining the soul of it without any compromises. And I feel that's what Dhadak 2 has done to Pariyerum Perumal. I'll not get into which is better. Everyone can have their own choices. One film may work better for you than the other, but the important point is both are telling a really good story with a really good message, and it needs to travel everywhere it can. Sometimes it's not just about the story but also the way you present it, and that's what Hollywood is doing. It's taking it to the next level and we are being left behind. What is that? Find out in this video. Let me know your thoughts about it in the comments below, and I will see you next time.